Today we're going to take a look at deer-resistant perennials. Perennials that you can plant in your garden, and these are perennials that the deer tend to stay away from. Hi, I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings, and I have a huge cartload of plants here. I'm up at the Northern Michigan garden, and over the winter there's perennials that we've lost either to deer browsing and or just because of the winter, and you know how sometimes you'll lose perennials. So there's a lot of holes we want to get filled in. So this time we went through the greenhouse and looked specifically for plants that are listed as deer resistant. Now, what does deer resistant mean? Deer resistant means these are plants that the deer will tend to stay away from. But with anything, if an animal is hungry enough, it may go after some certain plant varieties. They're going to get a tummy ache for doing so, but you know, when they're hungry, they do anything and will go after anything. So there's a lot of great varieties here. These are plants that are for sun, some are for shade, some are for part shade. We are a zone 6A here in Michigan, so all of these plants are hardy at least in a zone 6A, and to be honest, most of them also are hardy down to zone 5, if not even cooler. So if you're sitting there in a zone 5 or 6 or even warmer, these plants should be good for your garden. So let's go ahead and go through the different plants that I've chosen for the garden here. If you want to grab a pen and a paper and make a list of some of the varieties we're looking at today. Go ahead and do so, because I think especially if you've had deer in your garden and that seems to be a problem for you, this is going to be a very good starting point of perennials that you can add in that the deer should stay away from. So let's go ahead and start making our list. The first plant I have here is the Peruvian lily, also known as Alstroemeria. This here is called Summer Heat. A nice upright plant that will get about 36 or so inches tall, likes to be planted in full sun to part shade locations. The next three plants I have here are Veronica, and I wanted to go with kind of that red, white, and blue look. A lot of the plants up here in the Northern Michigan garden are red, white, and blue. So we've got the Magic Show Pink Potion, the Magic Show White Wands, and then Magic Show Ever After. So these are going to be nice spring, summer, fall bloomers. They're a great reblooming perennial. You give them a nice trim, and they bloom throughout the summer. Beautiful colors, beautiful flower spikes. Foxglove is another great deer-resistant plant. Here we have the Arctic Fox Rose. Nice tall spikes, will get about 24 inches tall. This is a midsummer bloomer. I love Delosperma because it's a very low growing ground cover and it comes in various color options. Here I chose the Ocean Sunset series. This one here is Violet Flare. And this is just going to be a nice border that will go in more of our sunnier areas in our garden. So before we get going much further into this video, I do want to let you know in YouTube, underneath the video, they have like a description section where you can click on, and in that description section, there's going to be a lot of information. Included in that information is going to be links to all of these plant varieties we're talking about today. So if you want more information as far as its hardiness zone, its sun exposure, how tall it gets, when it blooms, go to that little description section in the YouTube video and you'll get a wealth of information on all the plants. Again, too, if there's something you're liking and want for your garden, Garden Crossings is a mail order company and we ship these plants all over the United States. So anything we're talking about here today, we can ship directly to your door, or you can come into our garden center in Zeeland, Michigan. Another low growing perennial variety that's deer resistant, this is the Rapido Blue. These are Campanula, and these are a nice, just mounding short ground cover. And I shouldn't say ground cover because they're not the spreading kind of ground cover, but they just create nice little mounds of beautiful purple flowers. These also come in a white variety, so if you're wanting to alternate purple and white, this would be a really beautiful front of the border type garden plant. This plant here, I know it's very small and it's very young. They were recently planted, but I wanted to get them in the garden up here, so I know I'm planting a young plant. But this is a Spigelia. It is Spigelia orange slices. The thing I like about Spigelia is that it can grow in full sun or in full shade, and it's a native plant variety. It blooms in the summer with these beautiful tubular blooms that are orange, and not only is it deer resistant, but the hummingbirds like it as well because of those gorgeous tubular flowers. For the shadier areas in my garden, I love planting in bleeding heart. This is the bleeding heart gold heart. Not only does it have the fantastic yellow foliage that really pops nicely in the shady areas, it also gets beautiful spring blooms that are purple and they look like little heart flowers. Great foliage, great flowers. Usually they start blooming earlier in the season, so this is one of those plants that can kick off early color in your gardens. Not only is it fragrant, it's also very beautiful. This here is lavender, and lavender is a nice fragrant flower and foliage combination. This one here is called Royal Anouk. It is a shorter variety, only getting about 18 inches tall at maturity, and nice silvery foliage. So this is great for full sun areas in your garden. A very old-fashioned flower for the garden are Rudbeckia, or black-eyed Susans. This one is called Little Goldstar, and basically this is a little bit shorter variety, likes to be planted in full sun. It only gets 14 to 16 inches tall, but it's a great summer blooming perennial that the deer tend to stay away from. One of the sayings for choosing plants that are deer resistant is finding things that have fuzzy foliage, fine foliage, or are fragrant. And Agastache or hyssop falls into that category of fragrant. This one here is the meant to be royal raspberry. Likes to be planted in full sun and has gorgeous raspberry pink blooms. Because it is fragrant, that is one of those attributes that the deer tend to stay away from. The other thing I like about this is it's a very long blooming perennial. So anytime I can choose a perennial that's long blooming in the garden, I think that's kind of a real bonus. A few more of the early summer blooming perennials are poppies or papavers. Beautiful peach colored one here. This one is called Queen Alexandra. I just kind of lost the petals on it. And here's a nice orange one called Prince of Orange. Full sun, early summer color. This is a foliage that has kind of that prickly texture to it. So this is one reason why poppies are a good choice for planting in gardens that tend to have deer issues. I love the foliage of Thalictrum cotton candy. It's kind of more that fine type foliage with beautiful cotton candy pink blooms. It gets 38 to 42 inches tall and likes to be planted in a full sun to part shade location. The thing I like about these flowers is they're just so airy and so soft, and I love how they dance in the breeze. This is an early summer bloomer, so we're really kicking off that early summer color with the Thalictrum in the garden. For more of your part shade and shade gardens, these are a great selection. Here we have one called Montgomery. I love the beautiful red flowers of Astilbe Montgomery. And this is one that has kind of that little bit of a prickly type foliage. It's not really thorny, but it does have kind of a texture to it. And I love the red flower spikes that emerge in the summer, especially when I have these mixed in, I'm going to say among hostas, which are not deer resistant, but they really do brighten up those shady spots in the garden. We had an area in one of our beds where we had the Heuchera grass, and then we had, I don't even know what we had planted between it, but whatever the plant was we had planted between did not make it over the winter. So I thought by adding these silver gumdrop in, these are corbels, that these might be really pretty. I love the silvery sheen there on the leaves, and what I liked best and why I chose this one is because it's got really beautiful pink flowers throughout the summer. So not only does it have fantastic foliage, I love it when you have a corbel or Heuchera that has flowers that last for a long time throughout the summer. Planting up these garden beds give me a good opportunity to try a new perennial for 2025-2026. It's a proven winter introductions called Violets Are Blue. It's a Delphinium. It gets 36 inches tall, and Delphinium usually bloom around here in June or July. And I love the really rich blue colors of Delphinium. And because these get a little bit taller, this will be a great plant that I can plant towards more the back of the garden to kind of give me a little bit of height. When I do plant the gardens, we do try to kind of stagger the plants in such a way that you've got your taller plants in the back and working your way towards the front with a little bit shorter plants. So it is important when planting a garden bed to really look at the size of the plants you're planting so that you can have nice color staggered down to the front of the border. For those of you that have held on this long, thank you. and we're about halfway through our plant list. I know we've already given you a lot of really great selections, and there's a lot of more great selections coming. So hopefully you haven't run out of ink yet, because keep that pen going with these beautiful perennial varieties that are deer resistant. This one here is a Jacob's Ladder, and it's called Heaven Sent. This is one of the early spring or mid-spring blooming perennials. Gorgeous periwinkle blooms. And the thing I like about Heaven Sent is these flowers on it are so fragrant. When it's done flowering, you get beautiful olive green, nicely textured foliage. So it's just something that, fragrant flowers, I love them. I absolutely love them in my garden. And really, you know, I think it's important when I'm planting that I think of when our plants blooming, because I want to make for sure that my garden is in color all summer long. And this is one that kind of kicks off that early growing season. Designer Threads Coreopsis is a great choice. It's got that fine foliage, beautiful red blooms. There's the name of the plant. And this likes to be grown in full sun locations. You get 16 to 18 inches tall, so just kind of a nice, kind of a middle-sized compact mounding habit. Another favorite of mine are Stokesia, and this is the totally stoked Riptide Stokesia. We have two different color varieties of Stokesia right now. We have purple and also white. The thing I like about Stokesia is once they start blooming, they're another long blooming perennial to add into the garden bed. If you have garden beds that tend to be a little bit more on the dry side or are in full hot baking sun, Achillea or yarrow is a good plant to put into those type of areas. This one here is called Firefly Fuchsia, and this is a beautiful fuchsia color. The Achillea come in a lot of different colors. There's oranges, there's reds, there's yellows, there's whites, and now this beautiful fuchsia color. They stand 22 to 24 inches tall and like to be planted in full sun gardens. Although they're not rabbit resistant, coneflower are a deer resistant perennial. And what I like to do in my garden is get several colors of coneflowers and just make a patch of all the various different colors. It's so beautiful when they bloom midsummer, and they're deer resistant as mentioned, but also the thing I like about growing coneflowers in my garden is the songbirds. They love to eat the seeds in the flowers once the flowers are spent. These here are part of the Sombrero series, and they're beautiful single flowers. We have huge selection of coneflowers, probably over 35 or so different varieties when we have them all listed. The uptick Coreopsis are another great deer resistant variety. These are fairly long blooming starting midsummer. Here you can see we've got the yellow and the red. They get about 14 inches tall, 14 inches wide, and like to be planted in full to part sun locations. I love the beautiful blooms that just kind of continue to go all summer. You can see this plant here is just starting to come into bud. So this one is certainly going to be beautiful once it starts blooming. This is totally a Heidi color. This here is a penstemon. It is the Rock Candy Ruby. This gets about 12 inches tall and 12 inches wide, likes to be planted in a full sun area. So in all honesty, this is almost at its mature height. Not only is it deer resistant, but the hummingbirds also love the beautiful magenta tubular blooms. Another great variety is the Gaillardia. This is the Spin Top series, and this is the Spin Top Starburst. Very compact blooming, only getting about 12 or so inches tall and wide. Gaillardia tend to be another long blooming perennial that once the summer starts warming up, it really puts on a show and finds its time to shine. And the last perennial in the Deer Proof series is a Saxifraga. This is the Saxifraga Marto Red. These are really nice little mounding plants, very low in habit. They only get about 4 to 6 inches tall with the blooms, so this is about as tall as this plant gets, and then it spreads and creates a little bit larger clump as it continues to grow. This is an early season bloomer, and once these blooms are spent, we'll go ahead and trim them off, and then they'll send up more blooms. I can always see the buds starting in here from the foliage down below. So if you're looking for just a little plant to tuck into front borders of the garden, Saxifraga is a great selection. So for those of you who are making a list and are just looking to add some new or different perennials into your garden bed, hopefully you found this video insightful and maybe even helped grow your list of options to plant in your garden just a little bit. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have links to all of these different plant families down in the description there under the YouTube video. So you can click on any of those links to get more information on any of the plants that I talked about today. If you're new to our channel, we welcome you to subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings.